This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast. For help with your retirement, schedule a 15-minute phone conversation with the team at ProStatus Financial Advisors today. Just call 866-597-1040 and at thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
Hello again. Welcome to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast with the team at ProStatus Financial. We have Ryan Herbert here today. We're going to talk through some of the issues of retirement and how we may be able to help. And we are getting close to closing off 2025, the week before Christmas. Do you have everything done? I mean, you got no excuses now, Ryan, because you got Amazon on your phone and you can just buy everything you need right there. It comes to your house. I think it's screwing up all the excuses for guys these days.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. This time of year, whenever I do buy stuff and it comes to the house, I always tell my wife, don't open any package that has my name on it. But the problem is that all the Amazon packages have my name on it. And, you know, I'm in the fortunate position to where my wife, Meredith, pretty much handles all of the gifting. I have to buy for like my brother, my father, my nephew, and then of course her, but she's very, easy / expensive to buy for him. So, you know, she sent me an email, just said Christmas wish list, and it was one thing, and it said flights to Portugal, because that's where she wants to take our family vacation this year, this summer. So, you know, simple enough for me. I buy that, but then, you know, I can't just give her one thing to open for Christmas. You have to put stuff in the stocking, and then I have to take the girls to go shopping for her, so she has stuff to unwrap. So it's not just like one thing. But yeah, how about you? Are you ready?
I am ready. I've been told I can't go in the closet. I can't go in the office. I can't go downstairs in the workshop. I can't go underneath the where we store all the Christmas stuff. I can't go anywhere in the house. So I just sit in front of the TV and wait for Christmas, I guess. I don't know. We have cats though, and trying to keep the cats out of the Christmas tree, that's a full-time job. And this year we bought a fence, a white picket fence that goes around the Christmas tree, and it actually has worked. I think my cats have just got too fat and they don't want to climb anymore. I don't know what it is, but
jump that fence.
All right, let's get into it here. You know, one of the things that we talk about when you prepare for retirement, and it's a really good, smart thing to do, and that is all those years that you've got your 401k and you've been putting money in that in your employer's benefit program. And then you get toward retirement and it's time to take that money out of there and put it into your own IRA. And the people at Vanguard have said there's just a ton of people that are doing that right now, which is a really positive thing. But then they said they're making this mistake. They're just leaving it there. So what happens is you call Vanguard and say, I want my own IRA. They move it to a money market account, and then they move it to your account. And then people let it sit for as long as 7 years or more. It just sits there in cash. So, Ryan, why do you think this is taking place? And how is this hurting people? And what would be a better way to go about this?
You know, the benefit to the 401k is that for better or worse, you have limited investment options. You may be limited to 5, 10, 15, 20. You might have, you know, a whole lot more than that, but you have those options right in front of you. You log onto your 401k's website, whether it's through Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab or, you know, whomever, and you click on investment options and it shows you, here's all the options you have. And it shows you, here's the year-to-date returns, the 1 year, the 2 year, you know, they show you all the returns. So it's very simple for you as the investor to invest in your 401k because all that information is right in front of you, right in one place. You can make that decision and then move on with it. But, you know, when you do pull money from your 401k, and there's various reasons you should, and there's various reasons you shouldn't, but, you know, generically speaking, what we like to tell our clients, our listeners, is that if you're no longer with your employer, your money shouldn't be there either. And like I said, there are reasons to take it away. There are reasons to leave it there. But, you know, what they do when you pull the money out of the 401k is you call up Vanguard, you call up Schwab, you call up Fidelity, you say, hey, I opened a new IRA over at Fidelity or Vanguard, or I want to open a new IRA with you guys. What they do is they go in and they have to generate cash because it has to come out as a check. There's no other way it happens. It's not an electronic transfer or anything like that, but it has to come out as a check. So they go in and then they sell everything in the account. And then 9 times out of 10, they're sending the new check of your rollover. They're sending it over to the new IRA, the new retirement account that you've established, and it gets deposited in. And most people, you're spending the time to go online or call the company up, and then they tell you, okay, it's done. It'll go over there. And then, candidly, most people don't think about it again. Or, when it gets over to that new company, the money goes into cash and they log on and they click on investment options. And now you've gone from the limited amount that 5, 10, 15, 20 amount that your 401k or your employer sponsored retirement plan has had. And now you have hundreds of thousands of options from all those stocks out there on the various exchanges, all the ETFs, those exchange traded funds, all the mutual funds, all those options out there. And, it gives most people this kind of paralysis of, I don't really know what to do with my money. Not everyone likes to dive in. It's not all in one place where you can see everything. And, here's all the rates of return. Certainly if you go to Fidelity or Vanguard or Schwab or T. Rowe, you can look at just their specific funds, but then how do you know if I'm using the right funds from, our Vanguard funds, the best funds, our Fidelity funds, best funds? It's just this paralysis by analysis that most people come across. And unfortunately, like Vanguard says, is that 28% of people who do these rollovers, that money just kind of sits in cash and that's where it's left. And it is something that I see pretty often when people come in and see me. They'll say, years ago, I had an old 401k, I rolled over to this IRA and it's with Schwab or Fidelity or with, a bank like M&T Bank or something like that. And that money's just sat in cash, but I have my 401k and here's how this is invested. I kind of want to make everything work. And that's really the kind of the starting point of the conversation of here's kind of where everything is right now. Here's the level of risk that you're taking. And when I see a lot of things in cash, I often ask, is this in cash for a reason or did you just forget about it? And, I would say about half the time that money's just sitting in cash just because they absolutely forgot about it, not because they're risk averse or they're worried about the stock market. And if you've done one of these rollovers and you've moved your money over to, one of the new institutions, you have an IRA at the bank that you've started and you don't really think it's doing anything, I encourage you to give us a call at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, and sit down with myself or Catherine or Faisal or Andrew or Lawrence or any one of my advisors here at ProStatus and let us take a second look at your investments. Get a second opinion on your wealth. Is your money working as efficiently as it can for you? Are you taking on the right amount of risk for you? Are you taking on too much risk? Are you taking on too little risk? Find out those answers. Plus, let's talk about what retirement would look like for you. What income can look like for you in retirement? What do taxes look like? What's your estate plan look like? All those parts of a financial plan all in one place, but it just starts by giving us a call at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040. Or, if you're like me and you hate picking up the phone to make appointments, I hate making phone calls to make appointments, you go to our website, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. That's thesavvyinvestorradio.com. Right at the top of the page says schedule my call. You click that, it takes you right to our calendar so you can book the time that's most convenient for you. That's thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
Ryan, I can't help but think that there's kind of some market timer thing that goes on with this, because if you moved your money from your employer 401k plan and then you moved it over to cash and it just sat there, and at the same time you did that, the market was going down, you would kind of think, well, look how smart, I'm a smart guy, aren't I? I just took my money out of all that risk. I'm not losing money like I would last week. And then you kind of feel comfortable with that. And you say, I kind of don't like being in that up and down market. But sooner or later, that market will go up and you'll start thinking, okay, now I'm missing the boat. So it really is kind of a matter of, I got out, I don't know when to get back in. And that's a game that is really kind of a losing game, isn't it?
100%. Market timing does not work. Yeah, you might hit it once or twice, but in the long run, you're either going to miss out on some of the upside or you're going to absorb the downside. If anybody could figure it out, market timing and precisely when the market's going to go up, precisely when the market's going to go down. Well, they're not going to share the secret. They're going to be chilling on a beach somewhere in Bora Bora or something like that. And, certainly, there have been times where, in our portfolios, in the management of assets where, we hit the nail right on the head. 2007, 2008 was one of those cases. We happened to pull out the majority of the money right before the stock market crash. And it wasn't a market timing. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, hey, the technical indicators are looking kind of iffy. Let's pull the money out. But then certainly there's been times where, we have been on the opposite side of that, really kind of, we've pulled everything to cash. We've protected our client assets, but we've missed out on 2 or 3% of the upside because, things don't really look right. So, even as professional money managers, market timing really doesn't work. And if you're thinking to yourself, I want to be risk averse, I want to protect my money from the downside. I still want to have some upside potential. There are options out there. Number one, there are annuities. Fixed index annuities are out there. And for better or worse, the fact that I just said annuities, they do have their drawbacks. Once you put the money in there, it's in there for 3, 5, 7, 10, 15. I think I've seen some for 18 years at this point. But, in the most basic sense of how these things work, and there's all different kind of variations on this premise, but it's doing what's called indexing. It's saying, here's where the stock market is today when your money goes in. Pick a date, January 1, 2025. That's when this thing opens for me. Let's look at the stock market. Let's look at the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, or some variation of stock market index. And it says, here's where it is today. Where is it a year from now? Well, if that index is up, I get a percentage of that up. I get a multiplier of that up. I get part of that up to a portion. But the basic premise is stock market goes up. My money goes up with the stock market. Conversely, stock market goes down. I don't lose anything. Now, if I have a fee associated with it because I'm getting some type of guarantee attached to it, I'll lose my money for that fee. Somewhere between 0.5% to 1.5% is kind of normal. There are certainly ones out there that have no fee at all, but that's the basic premise, is that stock market goes up, my money goes up with the stock market goes down, I don't lose anything. In exchange for that, have my cake and eat it too of downside protection and market upside, you're committing your money to that company for a number of years. So you don't want to put, for the most part, 100% of your money in any type of vehicle like that. There is when we're using these types of vehicles for downside protection, there's a specific percentage of the assets that we're using. When we're using them for income generation, there's a specific percentage of the assets that we use. So, they are a great tool when used properly, and they are a horrible tool when used improperly. And unfortunately, annuities have gotten bad raps over the years because there are far too many salespeople out there that just convince you to put as much of your money as I can possibly convince you to put into it. And then it doesn't work out like you plan. I can't get my money out, and now I'm stuck with a vehicle like that. So when it comes to annuities, they are a great tool if used properly, and they're a terrible tool if used improperly. Now, there are other alternatives to just annuities that kind of provide the same thing. For years now, ever since I want to say 2018, we have not been using bonds or traditional fixed income products as part of the overall portfolio. We've been using a combination of fixed index annuities that limit our downside and give us some upside, but we've also been using something that's called a structured note. And it functions similarly to how that annuity works, but on a much shorter time frame. Your money's only committed for 1 year, 13 months, 15 months, 18, 2 years, but it's doing that same thing where it's saying that if the stock market is up, it pays you X percentage. If the stock market is up, it pays you a percentage of that upside. The stock market's down, I don't lose anything. Now, like I said, same thing with annuities. There's all kind of variations with that, but we're doing that on a much shorter time frame. So it gives you that liquidity. If you're like, I really think that the next year, 2 years in the stock market's going to be really, really hairy for XYZ reasons, we have these shorter term alternatives rather than just parking your money in cash and earning in most money markets, 0.5%, 1%. There are alternatives out there. And if you are thinking, I want to have some of that downside protection, or I have all this money sitting on the sidelines, I'd like to earn something more, I encourage you to give us a call at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040. Sit down with myself or one of the advisors here on our team, and we'll help give you that second opinion on your wealth. Is your money working as efficiently as it can for you? 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, or visit us on the web at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. That's thesavvyinvestorradio.com. Right at the top of the page is a button that says schedule my call without ever having to pick up the phone.
We started the conversation about people who are moving money from their employer 401k over to their own IRA. Great move. But then they leave it sit there because it's in cash and it's not going up and down in the market. And then you try to figure out when to get back into the market. Well, here's what this says about you. You don't like risk. So if you don't like risk and you don't like the stock market, why sit in cash? Why not take some of the advice that Ryan is talking about here and look at some of the other options out there that are less risky? Okay, that is a great conversation. Go to the website, which is thesavvyinvestorradio.com. As Ryan said, there's some buttons there that you can click on and start the process. And what that does is it triggers a phone conversation and sit down and say, what have you done to save for retirement? What do you want to do in retirement? How can we help you? What is your main concern? Let's get that conversation going. And maybe that leads to us sitting down in the office at the table and really kind of getting down to it. Give them a call as well at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040. If you've saved $500,000 or more for retirement, this is where you're going to see the power of that kind of planning really kick in. 866-597-1040 or thesavvyinvestorradio.com. That is all the time that we have on this segment. Ryan, I'll give you the last word on this one.
This is Ryan Herbert. Thank you so much for listening to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and podcast, and we will see you, the Savvy Investor, next week.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.